Good evening, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It does feel like a while since we've done one of these because November has been very stop-start for the Gills because of cup fixtures and postponements. But match preview show does return, and I'm pleased to say, returning to the channel is an excellent guest. It is Danny Shepherd. He runs the brilliant One Up Top Salford City Podcast, so he's going to help us look ahead to our weekend fixture. Obviously, need to bear in mind that Gills have had a fixture change this week, so we will be kicking off after this has been recorded. Danny is obviously very happy. Number one, it's his birthday. So say happy birthday to Danny online, whether that's on X or on YouTube. And of
Cheers.
course, his Salford City team won 2-0 on Tuesday evening against Harrogate Town. Danny, it's fair to say that looking at the recent form of both sides, Salford will come into it surely with more confidence, albeit the caveat is we're not sure what's going to happen between Gillingham and Bromley. So if we look at the last six for Gills quickly, it's 4 points from 18 available. There's been four defeats that way to Accrington, Bradford, Newport and Harrogate, a draw against Swindon and a win against the league leaders. Such is the nature of football at League Two level.
Losing to Harrogate, Matt, how can you do that? Based on last night, I don't know how anybody could lose to Harrogate. Sorry, Harrogate fan, they were poor, as were Cheltenham, who we beat in the cup before. But two bad teams for me.
Yeah, we got Cheltenham, I think, the Friday before Christmas. So fingers crossed we might have garnered some sort of confidence and momentum before then. But yeah, Danny's side obviously beat Harrogate Tuesday evening by 2-0. And before that, there's been wins against Swindon, Colchester. There's been draws against Fleetwood Town and Doncaster. And the only real blip and disappointment in that run was a home defeat to Carlisle United. So it's 11 points from the last 18 available for Salford City. They currently sit 11th, just a point, a place above Gills and a point. But as we say, Gills' game in hand, technically, is this evening. When we spoke to you in March, Danny, I think before the game when I came up to Salford to watch us, horrible day, if I remember rightly. There was, I think there was all 4 seasons in one. That was the sort of main memory of it.
Sounds right, yeah.
The pie was good. The Gills' performance was decent. But you said you wasn't sure as to what the project would be moving forward because there was a lot of question marks over Carl Robinson. He only had a contract till the end of the season, I believe.
Yeah.
So it was difficult to gauge what was going to happen in the summer, how you might look moving into August. How's he done in the last 7.5 months? Because from the outside, it looks like he's tried to change the way you play. He's tried to bring the average age down a little bit, albeit there is still some veterans, I'd say, in the squad.
Yeah.
But how's it been over the last 7.5 months since we last spoke?
It's still, I would say, pretty up and down. It's still kind of a bit suck it and see, because a lot of fans and a lot of pundits have said that I still don't think Cal knows who his best 11 is. And when you look at the rotation and the change of the formation, we recruited pre-season for a 4-2-3-1. We played that in every single pre-season game. We never played with a back three once. And then we got to the season proper, had a few dodgy games. I think Port Vale and Doncaster didn't look at it at all. An injury or a suspension to Curtis Till forced us into a back three. And we've looked better since. But it's odd because I agree that he is slowly trying to move us towards the Cal Robinson pinnacle of the peak. But every now and again, he tries to kind of progress that a little bit too fast, then has to pull. So it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, I feel, with him at the moment, because anytime he tries to get us to do too much in terms of pretty passing patterns and triangles in midfield, we tend to surrender a lot of goals because we tend to get pressed out of the ball. And when he actually, as he's done in the last few games, had us playing a bit more conservatively, we look a more efficient outfit and more defensively strong. So it's definitely a work in progress. Is the short answer? But I didn't want to just give you 3 words.
No, absolutely not. And that's what we want you to give us the reasons why. And it sounds similar to us because Mark Bonner's a 4-2-3-1 man, has been. He's had success at this level doing it with Cambridge United. We know that a few seasons ago, but we've gone to a back three in recent weeks. I'm not sure we've got any better, unfortunately. We're in the middle of a horrible run of form, which has extended pretty much for nearly 2 months now, since going top of the league at the end of September. So yeah, it looks like then, looking at certainly your lineup from the Harrogate game most recently, is it might be 2 very similar systems, then a back three, wing backs, and then a variety of some sort of trio in the middle of the park and a front two, whether that's a 2 and a 1 or a 1 and a 2 or a flat 3. I know we've tried to do almost go like a 3-1-4-2 in recent games, and it's looked all right in patches, but then at other times, like the Harrogate winner against us is the worst example of us. We take off a holding midfielder, try to be brave and go and win the game, but when does bravery cross over into stupidity, and their winning goal comes right through the middle of us? One pass takes out absolutely everybody.
Just on that, Matt, if I could,
yeah, go on.
You mentioned a 3-1-4-2, or basically a one in front of the three. I felt that with ourselves, our one in the last game or two has been Osama Ashley, who massive fan of him. Like, the more I see of him now, he's not injured all the time, and he's not subject to the heart defect or whatever it was last season. Really good. When I start looking at the heat maps from your suggestion of Sofa score, it looks like he's far more part of the defensive collective. So he's basically, it's a back four that's actually got a midfielder in it. The wing backs, I don't know if it was the same with yourselves, they're not particularly looked for any defensive responsibility that often. So our holding midfielder seems to be just kind of reading the space in front and filling in anywhere in between they need to, between the back three, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. I think we have Ramo Hutton, who tends to try and almost cheat, if you want a better word, and stay high. And then Max Clark's probably the more defensive one who tucks in.
Yeah.
And then you have your outside centre back goes and plays as a right back if you have to. So yeah, that's how it's been panning out. Again, the results, do they suggest it's working? Do they suggest that anything's working for us at the moment? That's the be all and end all.
Your possession figures, I've noticed, are going up, and your results are getting worse. From what I saw on FB Ref earlier on, I didn't see you below 50% since you've started losing. And before then, you're winning games with 30 and 35%. So it is that, without watching basically any of the League Two football apart from my own team, is there an attempt to actually have the ball more now? And that's counterproductive for you? I don't know.
Honest answer, Danny, is I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't think we're a team that's going to have loads of the ball. We're not going to be like an MK Dons or a Crawley last season or a Forest Green from 3 seasons ago that just keeps it almost for the sake of keeping it and will just pass teams to death. But this has been a question mark for us, certainly myself and Reese, who I do the review show with on a Sunday, and others on social media, is we're not even sure what we are at the moment, which is a little bit concerning. We're now in December. Could understand it, start of the season, injury crisis, Mark's trying to learn his squad and that type of thing, like Carl did when he came in with you lot last season. But we're now sort of 3 months into the season, and we're not sure what sort of style we play.
Yeah.
What variations aside from the sort of one sit-in. So we've still had injuries to contend with as well. But that's that's not an excuse. We can't keep using that as an excuse. I think going into Saturday, again, bearing in mind something might happen in this evening's game against Bromley, I think it's only really Bradley Dack that's not fit. There are others that have been out on the grass that have missed a lot of football, but they're available for selection if required. So no, that's the biggest frustration for me, is that we're not really sure what type of football team we want to be. We want it like, you look at Carlisle, first game of the season, took the lead, went 2-0 up, looked really bright, pressed high, were intense, dug in when they pulled a soft goal back, and then were clinical enough to go and find 2 more. And then we've been a million miles off it since Barrow. I thought a performance against Barrow was really good. Mark Bonner come out in the press conference and said he thought we weren't that great. Oh. And since then it's
confidence builder.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for trying to improve players. I get that, but it might just be complete coincidence. But it just seems weird that in a game that a lot of the fans thought we were very good, he wasn't so enamoured with what he saw. And since then it's 1 win in 8, which is it's relegation form. Regardless, you can dress it up, but the caveat again is, and I suppose the straws that we're clutching to at the moment, is it shows how good the start was. It was 6 wins in the first 8 games. So if we can get back to nearer that or somewhere in the between, we're not going to be too far off. And we're only, I think, 4 points off the playoffs with a game in hand at some point because of the Walsall postponement. But at the same time, you need to win points and get them on the board. I'd rather be sat here with points on the board than a load of games saying we might do this and we might get to there. You touched on summer recruitment. I was just looking at some of your signings. Is it fair to say that a handful of them new additions in the summer, Danny, were players that were trying to rebuild their careers, that had maybe sort of had their reputations diminished at other clubs and are now coming into a club where they're trying to sort of get back on an even keel. I'm talking about people like Cole Stockton, who was absolutely superb for Morecambe a few years ago.
Yeah.
Went to Burton, it didn't really work out. Ben Woodburn, highly rated as a kid at Liverpool, didn't work out in the Championship. I know
Tom
injury.
Edwards, I guess.
Tom had another one. Haji Minoga one was that stood out because he came to us on loan from
Oh,
from
did he? Right.
Portsmouth
Okay.
a couple of seasons ago. Got sent off 10 minutes into his debut. Barely played after that. Dropped into the National League, but's now
He did.
stepped back up.
Yeah.
So, is it almost like I don't know, that Carl's trying to rescue some of these players, and with a sort of the approach that, well, we'll help you to help us and to help yourselves as well?
Yeah. I mean, apart from doing the podcast, which I do, I'll just get a bit of a plug in for the fanzine that
Absolutely,
myself
yeah.
and some other supporters have started since our match day program has been stopped, called The Old Dead Tree. And in the most recent issue, I did an article about risks that we've taken in recruitment, because Carl has said that because of our budget, we've had to take risks. And every single person you've talked about, although I would say less so with Hadji, because Hadji's been pretty solid for us so far, and he's very versatile. He can play anywhere on the right, really. He's been good. The others, whether you're looking at Tom Edwards and his match fitness, which still doesn't seem to be there, his build suggests it's not there. That's the kindest thing I can say, dropping down from the Championship. Ben Woodburn's intensity and end product is questionable. Even, again, he's dropped 2 divisions and he's not set the world on fire yet. So Cole Stockton, he scores the odd goal, but so unpopular amongst the fan base, I cannot tell you. And if you look at his career, that one-off season
Was the anomaly.
But find the rest. And I forget who I was talking to on a recent podcast, and they said it was very similar with them. That if basically, like, every now and again he'll show a flash of something, but it's his motivation, his mobility, and his willingness to work that's the problem. I would build on what you said in the sense that I think the underlying aspect is, well, I think we're trying to rebuild value in those players. I think you were kind of hinting at that, and I think it's true, because if you go on to transfermarket.com and look at how much Ben Woodburn was when we brought him in, 500,000, I think we looked at it as a barn conversion. You know what I mean? Let's flip it. Let's have, let's build a team around him. And within 5 games or so, he was finding, maybe a bit more, he was finding himself on the bench because he wasn't working hard enough for what Carl needs. You need like a dog of war in that attacking midfield position, like a Kelly and Mai, like a Conor McElhenney, someone who's going to really fight to regain the ball. You can't just have someone who's going to mess it Ozil the way through a League Two game. It doesn't work like that. So yeah, there's been risks. I can't say that any have been resounding successes. But I do think it's, I've likened it to a game of Cluedo, where it's just, guess who, sorry, he's flipping down the faces one by one, who doesn't fit. And I think January will see a reset quite soon.
Yeah, I think we'll be similar, because there's just been, I think Mark's gone into a little bit of self-preservation mode in recent press conferences. He's still, generally saying things as they are, and there's not been many where we've, as fans, or certainly myself, have listened to what he said after a game and gone, that's way off what we've watched. But yeah, I think, and this has been a conversation that's been on social media, because obviously I was very vocal last season. I'm sure you've seen on social media. In terms of, I wasn't a fan of Stephen Clements. I think his position in the league at the moment suggests that I was right, in the sense that we got rid of him at the right time. Is Mark a step up at the moment? I think the jury's still very much out at best for some fans. But yeah, I think there might be a similar sort of transfer window for us, because the big question mark is, this is now the 3rd manager that a lot of these players would potentially have seen off if the results continue and Mark Bonner has to leave the football club. So at what point do we say it's either Neil Harris, or it's Stephen Clements, or it's Mark Bonner, or do we say it's 80% of a squad that's been here for the last 3 seasons that have struggled in front of goal, that have not really progressed us? Question marks over lots of things, unfortunately.
On that point, if I can, it reminds me, don't know, a hell of a lot of seasons ago, I remember Southampton used to operate kind of a continuity approach of appointment. Everybody around the Pochettino time, they had managers who were, they thought, and it proved to be interchangeable for quite a period, because they were all recruited to play a similar system and to play the same way with a similar ethos, and the manager they brought in, you could see the connecting dots. I can't speak for your managerial changes, but I look at players. I mean, it's not necessarily the manager they've been recruited under. It's more that what were they brought here to do? Was it to play this way? Was it to play that way? Were we supposed to be a physical, direct team? Are we supposed to be a pretty pattern team? Are we supposed to be a back four team or a back three as we've changed to? And it's very important, I think, to have, as you said, a direction of travel, to know what the end goal is, because it doesn't matter how slowly you get there as long as you don't get relegated. That's at least from my perspective. I think Gillingham have probably got better aspirations than that. But for me, it's about other pieces we're picking up as these reclamation value projects. Are they just to flip players, or are they actually to contribute and to get us somewhere? I'm not sure. I don't know.
No, and again, it's like I say, it's similar with us, because at what point do we keep putting it on managers and stop doing that, and we say that it's X amount of players that have caused the same issues for X amount of seasons.
Yeah.
And it's a real shame, because everything off the pitch since the Gallinsons came in Christmas 2022 has been absolutely superb, that progress. And I was lucky enough to interview our managing director a short while ago, and he said, unfortunately, it just seems that the on-pitch stuff is taking a little bit longer than people had anticipated. Maybe fan base, and it happens not just at our club, maybe they think because, there's a bit more money to spend now, that means you almost have a right to be in the top seven, and that's clearly not how football works. We know that at any level.
No.
But yeah, it's frustrating all the same, because we've struggled for far too long, and we thought that with the new ownership, things on the green stuff might have happened a little bit quicker, but it's not to be. But like you say, it has to be a project, but you have to know, like you say, what journey that project is.
Yeah.
If it's just sort of bouncing from one weekend to another, then it becomes almost a bit of a car crash rather than
it's too reactionary then, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but we can't become a Watford. Like, we can't, regardless for me of what my opinion is or other fans' opinions of Mark Bonham, we cannot become a club that sacks a third manager in 14 months, because then you get to the point where, who do you appoint? Because who wants to come to a football club that goes, well, on average, you've only got 5 months to be successful, or you're going to be out on your ear, and that's the risk where we're at the moment. So I think Mark Bonner will be a longer term thing, but we all know it's a results game at the end of the day, don't we? You spoke about Osama Ashley, been really good this season. I was just looking at age of your squad. Just from the outside, and again, you can tell me more, and that's the exact point of this interview and this chat, is that you seem to have got a decent blend. We've mentioned that Carl's trying to bring the average age down. There's a few in there that are sort of certainly over 30, some that are even mid-30s getting towards 40, but we've got a few that are sort of early 20s that look promising, certainly on paper. Is it Okonkwo, if I've pronounced that correctly?
Frankie's on loan from Everton. He scored the odd goal. He's here for the season, I believe, although he's probably got a January recall like most players have from higher leagues. He's got a few goals, but he's a striker who does not look lethal. He looks, to me, I classify him as a pressing forward. I think he's very, very agile, very, very mobile, but I don't think he shines when he's got a chance. His composure seems and confidence seems quite raw. But if I was going to point to anyone in that age category, it's Kelly and Mai. I've got him down. Luamba as well. Ashley, I'd written down as well. There's a few. Luamba's dropped like a stone. As the squad quality has improved, all that talk last season of Luamba being worth £1 million, I think that was Carl trying to get rid of him for £1 million while he was scoring goals. And I thought that at the time. He's now a bench warmer. But Kelly and Mai has beefed up significantly. It looks like he's done a lot of gym work. And we're using him in a way now where he's not getting into as many body-to-body tussles. We're putting him in behind defences. He's very, very rapid. And he's an absolute... one of the most intense pressers in a forward line I've ever seen. He just never gives up. He'll win the ball back regularly in most games. So even against Everton, he's a terrier against an opposition defence. So he's a well-rounded player for such a young lad, I would say, Kelly and Mai. Yeah, and the numbers are backing that up. 6 goal contributions in the league in 15 appearances and 12 starts as well. So if you base it on starts, it's a goal contribution every other start, which is brilliant stuff. And like you say, very young, certainly falls into one of them that would be potentially you move on and then you can keep rebuilding. And it's all part of that journey that we've spoken about for him. And
and lower league football clubs because that's the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
The other end of the spectrum is obviously the likes of Cole Stockton. We've mentioned Conor McElhenney's 32 now, Matty Lunt, John Taylor, Curtis Tilt. Curtis Tilt reminds me, nice draw in the FA Cup as well. Well done. Enjoy.
Unbelievable. All
Yeah.
the interview requests have already started coming in. Like, oh, what do you think of this? What's your it's so exciting. But yeah, can't wait.
Yeah, there were some really good draws for lower league clubs. I mean, I watched it obviously as a football fan. Unfortunately, Gills went out in the first round. But yeah, for likes of you and Accrington and Morecambe and Harrogate, all got really, really good draws.
Yeah.
Tamworth, we have to talk about, going to host Tottenham as well. Yeah, there were some absolute belters. So hopefully a few of you get some decent TV coverage and it's not just the usual all Premiership ties that get aired. Pre-season. I'm sure you saw that I did a 1 to 24 predictions, and a lot of this was off of what I'd spoken to you about. There was obviously a lot was up in the air. I had you down as 20th. You'd mentioned the squad was unbalanced last season. You didn't know whether Carl Robinson was going to be your manager, so there was a lot of uncertainty over that. You'd not had a good season last season, it's fair to say.
Yeah.
Do you think that was a fair prediction? If we can sort of rewind to August.
As a snapshot then, yeah.
But and then the second question is, what was your aspirations and have they changed given the recent run of form?
I'd say it's less about form, without trying to be contrarian. It's more about that deadline day. That deadline day made me realise that Carl and the club wanted more than having a front line of Marcus Dackers and Cole Stockton, which is what we had going into deadline day. We were going down. That was a certainty for me with those two up front. Dackers is now out on loan to Morecambe, I think. They quite like him, I believe. Stockton, unpopular with the fan base, doesn't seem to endear himself to Carl, plays very rarely, doesn't still give a lot of effort. But bringing in Hakeeb Adelakan, whatever we're paying him, when he's on the pitch and he's fit, way better than League Two. Way better, in my opinion.
Oh, his numbers last season were absolutely ridiculous.
I'm honestly, he came on against a team. We were losing 1-0 against Cheltenham at home. He came on, won the game on his own. I think he scored both goals. Absolutely brilliant. Kylian Kouassi is the only thing he lacks. Well, there's two things he lacks. He's not quite as adept in the air as Matt Smith, so he's not quite a target man. But he's an absolute beast. He's physically robust, brilliant hold up striker, quick, and he scored a few goals. And unfortunately, a few have been ruled offside. But he is a brilliant focal point for us to build around Kouassi on loan from Blackpool. And you mentioned Frankie already, who's coming on loan, another striker from Everton, but you don't bring in three strikers when you're happy with your options up front. So it was clear that Stockton and Dackers were kind of rotting away there. So, and also I think Minogue's given us more options. I think I keep hearing rumours of a massive amount of money that we're throwing Hakeeb's way in terms of his weekly wage because no one else would pay it. I think that's why he's with us on a 1-year contract. Unfortunately, he's injured at the moment. But signing players like that, even for a year, tells me that we want to be better than mid-table. We're hovering there at the moment. I don't look at the table at this moment. I'm probably going to do like Ryan Giggs said in the fans forum, wait till April. That's what he said. He's going to look at the table. That's when it really means something. But if we carry on this incremental improvement like we're doing at the moment, we could shade playoffs. We could, because we've got enough good players around. We don't even talked about, say, Stefan Negru, who's on loan from Oxford, one of the best centre halves I've ever seen under 30, because he's 21 and he plays like a head of a,
that's what I mean. You've got good balance there because you've got him and he plays with someone like a Curtis Tilt who's 34.
He does.
It's a great balance and it's a great player for Curtis to take under his wing and almost coach him through games when he needs to, when you're actually out on the pitch. But yeah, he's another one that's been really good. The only question I'd have, it's a similar question that I asked myself about our football club.
Yeah.
You've only scored 17 in 17. We've only scored 17 in 16. Both teams are fairly okay defensively, looking at numbers solely.
I think you're better than us. Historically, you're quite a good. I always think of Gillingham. I looked at it with 0.88 goals against, I believe, FB Rev. Yeah. And when we were at our poorest, up until this recent run, our XG per game was 0.94, which is horrendous. So I thought, if you're actually only considering an average 0.88, I think you are, as you've been even under previous managers, a good team at the back end.
Yeah, which is what we was even that season when we scored 6 in 23 league games at the start of 22-23. We were decent enough defensively. That's probably what helped keep us up. But both sides have got to score more goals. I think that's clear if they want to be seriously.
We're looking like we are now. We're creating things, we're actually we had a massive disconnect at one point between midfield and attack. We couldn't get the ball in an accurate way into the dangerous areas. It just wasn't happening. Long ball wasn't working, pretty passing wasn't working, dribbling wasn't working, and we look. But I actually think now that Carl is realizing that we need to kind of play a little bit direct and feed off a bit of a different target man like Kouassi, who almost plays like the old Mark Hughes role, almost like an attacking midfield player who permanently has his back to goal and just everything comes off his chest and his legs, and then we go from there in the final third. So that seems to be our new pattern of play since deadline day for me.
Yeah, and if you look in the last 6 that we spoke about right at the top of the show, you've scored 9 in them 6 games. That's 1.5 goals a game. You're looking at sort of mid to late 60s, which if you're fairly solid at the other end is going to give you half a chance. Final couple of bits then, mate, before we start wrapping this one up. Just really team news. Obviously, your game was played Tuesday night. So was there anybody that came out of that with any potential injuries? Do you see many changes for Saturday? Because surely if you've just won a game 2-0, you're on a decent run of form. There's not going to be much need, surely, for changing too much, because if it's not broke, don't fix it and all that type of thing.
We've had significant injuries. Stefan Negru, who I've been highlighting really well before, he wasn't in the squad. He hasn't been in the squad for a week or two. So I think he's out and sidelined with injury. So that kind of forces us into playing non-specialists at centre-half. We've got our wide centre-backs at the moment are full-backs, Luke Garbutt and Liam Shepherd. Yeah. So that's a weakness and a strength. It's a weakness against the aerial ball. It's a strength in possession because they're very good on the ball. Josh Osterfield, who's been kind of our jack of all trades, he's played at left centre-back, he's played in defensive midfield and in midfield. He's currently injured and he was carted off on a stretcher and he was strapped into it. I don't think he'll be back for weeks. And I'm trying to think of anyone else is missing. Hakeem Adelakan, difference maker, as I've said. You were not in agreement. So Josh is probably the least important of the three. Negru is a bang-on starter, as is Adelakan. But we do seem to have a settled formation now. I think Carl is working out who doesn't work in that. Junior Lawamba, people like that. Cole Stockton, really. Frankie Okonkwo wasn't in the squad last night. Not quite sure why. He may be missing. I didn't check the team news, to be fair, as to why he was missing. But if we do roll out the same formation and team against you on Saturday, I think we've got a decent chance, even away.
Absolutely, because our home form's fallen off the edge of a cliff. We were unbeaten in 15 in the league from Boxing Day up until start of October, and then we've lost 4 out of 5. I think it is. I think the Port Vale wins. That's the only one we've taken points in since the start of October.
Did it feel sustainable while it was happening, though, or not?
It did at the beginning of the season, certainly, because we had this chat last season, didn't we? Lots of Gills fans, because we were winning 1-0, but we knew that was never going to be sustainable. You don't go through a season winning 1-0, but beat Carlisle. They were sort of. Obviously, it's not worked out that way, but we thought they were going to be a good side at the level coming down from League One. That's gone the other way, even with a managerial change. There was good performances in that start to the season. Like we only lost to Doncaster, right up there. That was no great drama at all. And after that, we won 3 on the bounce. I think keeping clean sheets in all of them. Went to Notts County and won. Beat Barrow at the top of the league. Dismantled Tranmere playing with 10 men for half hour. So there was loads to be positive about. But like we've said before, like it's 1 win in 8. When does a rough trot of form become a bit of a mini crisis and then escalate into a full blown crisis? And that's the thing now. It's 2 games, I think, with the utmost respect to Salford and Bromley, that we need to be getting something out of both of them if we want to be seriously considered as playoff or promotion contenders. Beat Bromley, dare I say it, tonight, and then beat you Saturday, and it's a very different picture. But lose both of them, and then the questions remain, or they intensify as well. So it's been a tricky period.
Get that.
And it is just frustrating, like I say, because everything off the field has been really good, and it just seems that the on-pitch stuff's taking a little longer to catch up than I think everybody had really hoped. Final question, Danny, because I'm not going to try and predict a team for Gillingham because we've not played for 10 days, so I've no idea who's available. I think, like I've said, Bradley Dack's the only one that's not, but I don't know to what extent others have been on the grass and that type of thing. So, score prediction, and then I will let you go and enjoy your evening, and I will go and watch Gillingham and hopefully enjoy my evening.
Yeah, I'm off for a birthday Nando's, so it's Nando's after this.
Very nice. I think I'd rather come with you than watch football.
Yeah, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Prediction. Well, I think you're going to find us more physically intense and robust. And I think you're going to find it more of a challenge than maybe some of our results previously might suggest. So I'm going to go. I'll say we're going to probably win 2-1. I think it'll be tight. I don't think there'll be masses in it. I think we're going to go 2-1, Salford.
Okay. Again, mine's trying to do it before we play a game this evening.
Yeah.
I think we've played 4 times each other in the league. We've won the last 3, aggregate 6-1, but we're out of form. We've not been great at home. So I sort of sat on the fence and said 1-1.
I thought about it, yeah.
May change by a goal either way, depending on how the Bromley fixture goes.
Yeah.
Danny, as always, been a real pleasure, mate. Really enjoy chatting.
Anytime.
So we'll details for everybody who's still watching at this point. Thank you very much for Danny's podcast are down there in the description. So please go and give him a follow. Absolutely brilliant content regarding his football club and just very knowledgeable about the game in general. Be back Saturday afternoon, of course, myself, Ava and the gang for Match Day Live inside the Priestfield, hopefully to take in content for a Gills performance at least and maybe a win. And then, of course, we'll be back Sunday, myself and Reese, for the Match Day review show. But until then, thanks for watching. Please keep liking and subscribing. Again, happy birthday to Danny and a big thanks for coming on his big day, and up the Gills.